Ranking the most tragic backstories of DC characters. DC characters are often introduced like symbols before they are treated like people. But the more you dig into DC lore, the more obvious it becomes that a lot of these characters were not built from power first. They were built from damage. That is one of the biggest differences between just knowing these characters from posters and actually following their histories across comics, animation, reboots, retcons, and alternate timelines. Their costumes are iconic, but the backstories underneath them are often brutal. DC does not just give characters tragedy as decoration. In many cases, the tragedy is the engine. And for this ranking, we are not just looking at who had a sad childhood. The real question is deeper than that. How much did they lose? Did they have any choice in what they became? Did the tragedy end, or did it follow them every single day afterward? So this is not just a ranking of pain, it is a ranking of what that pain took from them. These are the most tragic backstories of DC characters, ranked from heartbreaking to absolutely devastating. Batman. Batman starts this ranking because his origin is the blueprint for almost every tragic superhero backstory that came after it. Bruce Wayne first appears as Batman in Detective Comics number 27 in 1939. But the tragedy that defines him is introduced shortly after in Detective Comics of 33, where readers are shown the murder of Thomas and Martha Wayne. Later versions refine the details, but the core almost never changes. Bruce is a child, usually accepted as 8 years old in modern canon, when he watches his parents die in Gotham City. In many versions, the Waynes are leaving a movie theater, often connected to the Monarch Theater, when they are confronted in what becomes known as Crime Alley. The killer is most famously Joe Chill, a street criminal whose role becomes especially important in Batman number 47 from 1948, where Batman learns Chill's identity and confronts the man who created him. That is what makes Batman's tragedy so iconic. DC builds a direct line from one murder scene to one of the most recognizable heroes in fiction. Thomas Wayne is not just Bruce's father. He is usually presented as a respected doctor and philanthropist, one of the few wealthy men in Gotham who still seems to believe the city can be helped. Martha Wayne represents old Gotham society, family warmth, and the life Bruce was supposed to inherit. When they die, Bruce does not only lose his parents, he loses the version of Gotham where goodness feels protected. After their deaths, Bruce is raised by Alfred Pennyworth, who becomes the closest thing he has to a parent. But Alfred cannot remove the central wound. He can keep Bruce alive, guide him, and sometimes challenge him, but he cannot give him back the childhood that ended in the alley. From there, Bruce turns grief into preparation. Depending on the version, he spends years training around the world. He studies detective work, criminology, escape artistry, martial arts, disguise, chemistry, psychology, and fear. The point is not just that Bruce becomes strong. Plenty of DC characters are strong. The point is that every skill is chosen as a response to helplessness. As a child, he could do nothing. As Batman, he tries to become someone who is never helpless again. That is also why the bat symbol matters. In the early origin, Bruce realizes that criminals are superstitious and cowardly, so he chooses a frightening image to turn fear back against them. The tragedy continues through the Bat family. In Detective Comics The Raider 38 in 1940, Bruce takes in Dick Grayson after Dick loses his own parents, creating Robin. That choice shows how Bruce's pain repeats in Gotham. He recognizes orphaned children because he was one, but it also reveals the uncomfortable part of Batman's legacy. Bruce keeps trying to save children from becoming him, while also bringing them into his war. Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is ranked here because his tragedy is unusual even by Batman villain standards. He was not originally created as one of DC's great tragic villains. He first appeared as Mr. Zero in Batman #121 in February 1959. Back then, he was closer to a gimmick criminal with an ice gun. The emotional version most fans know now came much later, through Batman, the animated series. The episode Heart of Ice, written by Paul Dini and directed by Bruce Timm, aired on September 7, 1992, and completely changed how people looked at him. That episode turned a cold-themed villain into Victor Fries, a scientist whose entire life is frozen around one person, Nora. Nora Fries is his wife, and she is terminally ill. Victor does not become Mr. Freeze because he wants money, power, or control over Gotham. He just wants to save the woman he loves. To buy time, he places Nora in cryogenic suspension while searching for a cure. That single detail is the emotional center of the character. Nora is not dead in the usual sense, but she is not living either. She is suspended between both, and Victor builds his entire existence around keeping that possibility alive. Then the accident happens. In the animated film, GothCorp executive Ferris Boyle tries to shut down Victor's work because it is expensive and unauthorized. During the confrontation, Victor is exposed to cryogenic chemicals. His body is changed permanently, leaving him unable to survive in normal temperatures. From that point on, he needs a specialized suit to keep himself alive. The man trying to preserve his wife becomes trapped in a frozen body of his own. Even his crimes are tied to the same wound. He steals, attacks, and threatens Gotham not because he enjoys chaos like the Joker, but because every crime is aimed toward one impossible goal: saving Nora. But that does not excuse what he does. Freeze is still dangerous. He is willing to hurt innocent people, fight Batman, and freeze anyone who stands between him and his mission. But his villainy has a clear emotional source. The cruel part is that Victor's love becomes a prison. Everything in his life narrows down to Nora, so he becomes stuck in a permanent waiting room where every failure feels like losing her again. Batman works so well against Mr. Freeze because Bruce understands obsession. Bruce also lost people he loved and built a life around that loss. But Batman turns grief outward into a mission to protect Gotham. Freeze turns grief inward until it becomes fixation. Victor Freeze is a man who tried to defeat death for his wife and ended up losing almost everything that made his own life human. Cyborg. Cyborg's tragedy is not just that Victor Stone almost dies, it is that he survives in a body he never chose. Victor Stone first appears in DC Comics Presents Chaka 26 in 1980, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, before becoming one of the central members of the new Teen Titans. In most classic versions, Victor is the son of two brilliant scientists, Silas Stone and Eleanor Stone, who work at STAR Labs. He is also a gifted athlete, which matters because Victor's original future is physical. His body is not just something he lives in, it is his way out from under his father's expectations. Then the accident happens. Depending on continuity, the exact cause changes. In the classic version, an experimental accident involving interdimensional science unleashes a creature that kills Victor's mother and horrifically injures Victor. In the new 52 Justice League origin, the transformation is connected to a mother box and alien technology. But the emotional core stays the same across versions. Victor is dying, and Silas Stone makes the decision to rebuild him with advanced technology. That decision saves Victor's life, and it also changes it forever. Victor wakes up no longer fully human in the way he remembers. Large parts of his body are replaced with cybernetics. He gains strength, weapon systems, computer interface abilities, and technology far beyond ordinary human limits. From the outside, it looks like an upgrade. He becomes stronger, faster, more durable, and eventually powerful enough to stand beside the Teen Titans or even the Justice League. But that is exactly where the tragedy gets overlooked. Cyborg's origin is not a wish fulfillment fantasy. Victor is a teenager whose body is destroyed, whose mother is dead in many versions, and whose father rebuilds him because the alternative is losing him too. Silas saves his son, but he also takes away Victor's choice. That creates the emotional tension at the center of Cyborg. Victor owes his life to the same father he resents. Silas acts out of love, guilt, desperation, and scientific instinct all at once. But from Victor's point of view, waking up as Cyborg means waking up inside a decision someone else made about his body. He survives the accident, but he has to grieve for the person he used to be. Victor Stone's tragedy is about the cost of survival. DC gives him incredible power, but that power loses a future he had already imagined for himself. Raven. Raven's tragedy is not built around one accident, one murder, or one lost parent. It is built into her birth. Raven first becomes central to DC history through the New Teen Titans era, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. She appears as one of the key founding members of the modern Titans lineup, but her reason for forming the team is not fame, adventure, or ordinary hero work. Raven gathers young heroes because she knows her father is coming, and her father is Trigon. That fact alone makes her origin one of the darkest in DC. Trigon is not just a criminal or a supervillain with a costume. He is a demon lord, a world conqueror, and in many stories, one of the most powerful evil beings in the DC universe. Raven is his daughter through Arella, a human woman whose life becomes tied to Trigon's manipulation and cruelty. That means Raven is born with a legacy she never asked for: monstrous. Raven is not feared because of something she has done. She is feared because of what she might become. Raised in Azarath, Raven learns strict emotional control because her powers are tied closely to her inner state. She is an empath. But because of Trigon's influence, those same emotions can become dangerous. Anger, fear, desire, and pain are not just feelings for Raven. They can become openings. So while other heroes are told to be brave, Raven is often taught to be still. She cannot simply be a normal girl. Raven is raised under the fear that her own soul could betray her. Her first major mission with the Titans makes that even clearer. Raven brings together heroes like Robin, Kid Flash, Wonder Girl, Changeling, Cyborg, and Starfire because she needs help stopping Trigon. Think about how tragic that is. Her origin as a hero begins with her trying to prevent her own father from using her to conquer Earth. Family for Raven is not safety. Family is the apocalypse. That is why she belongs this high on the ranking. Raven's tragedy is not only that she has an evil father. The tragedy is that Trigon is part of her. Even when she does good, the fear remains that darkness is somewhere inside her waiting for the wrong moment. And yet Raven still chooses the Titans. She builds a found family from people who are also damaged, strange, or displaced. The Titans become proof that she is not only a weapon and not only a warning sign. Starfire. Starfire's backstory is easy to underestimate if someone only knows her as the bright, loving alien member of the Teen Titans. But Koriander's origin is brutal. Starfire, whose real name is Koriander, first appears in DC Comics Presents number 26 in 1980, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. She becomes one of the major new characters of the new Teen Titans, along with Raven and Cyborg. But unlike a lot of Earth-based heroes, Kori's tragedy begins on another planet, inside royal politics, family betrayal, and alien war. Koriander is a princess of Tamaran, but her older sister Commander, better known as Blackfire, becomes one of the central reasons her life falls apart. She is family, so that makes the betrayal personal before it becomes political. In many versions, Blackfire's resentment toward Corey is tied to power, succession, and the fact that Corey is favored as heir. Tamaran is not a peaceful fairy tale kingdom. It is a world caught in violence, conquest, and brutal diplomacy. Corey is eventually ousted from her home, and the princess who should have inherited a throne becomes a prisoner. Corey is enslaved, tortured, and later experimented on by alien scientists known as the Scions. Those experiments are part of what unlocks or intensifies her ability to fire starbolts, the bright energy blasts that become one of her signature powers. So even her powers are connected to suffering. The emotional weight is not just that Corey loses her freedom, it is that she loses it through systems that should have protected her: family, royalty, and her own planet's politics. She is betrayed by her sister, separated from her home, reduced from princess to property, and forced to survive in places where compassion is treated like weakness. And yet, Starfire does not become cold. That is the most important part of her character. Coriander is one of the most emotionally open characters in the Titans. Corey loves strongly, fights fiercely, and does not hide what she feels. After everything done to her, that openness becomes part of the tragedy and the victory at the same time. Her relationship with the Teen Titans matters because the team gives her something Tamaran could not safely give her anymore: a chosen family. Dick Grayson, Donna Troy, Raven, Cyborg, and the others are not just teammates. For Corey, they become proof that trust can exist after betrayal. Earth becomes a second home, even though she arrives there carrying the wreckage of the first one. Supergirl. Supergirl's tragedy is easy to miss because people often describe her as the female version of Superman. That description completely undersells Kara Zor-El. Kara first appears in Action Comics number 252 in May 1959, created by Otto Binder and Al Plastino. She is Superman's cousin, the daughter of Zor-El and Allura, and one of the last survivors of Krypton. But the key difference between Kara and Clark is memory. Clark Kent is sent away from Krypton as a baby. He grows up on Earth with Jonathan and Martha Kent. Krypton matters to him, but mostly as inheritance, history, and legacy. He mourns a world he never truly experienced. Kara is different. In most versions, she is old enough to remember Krypton, or at least Argo City, the surviving fragment of Kryptonian civilization where she grew up. Kara does not just learn that her world died. She remembers what it felt like to have one. She knows what she lost because she actually lived inside it. That is why her backstory ranks this high. Kara does not arrive on Earth as a blank slate. She arrives as a refugee carrying the emotional weight of a dead civilization. Her parents send her away to survive, but survival means waking up in a world where almost no one understands what she has lost. Even Superman cannot fully share it with her, because he never had the same relationship with Krypton that she did. Depending on the continuity, Argo City survives Krypton's destruction for a time before falling to radiation, meteors, or other disasters. That makes Kara's trauma even crueler than one instant of destruction. In some versions, Krypton's death is not just one explosion, it is a slow collapse. Kara watches the last pieces of home fail, then gets sent away by Zor-El and Allura, while everything behind her disappears. So when she reaches Earth, she has not only lost a planet, she has lost parents, friends, culture, status, purpose, and the future she thought she was going to have. That is what makes Supergirl different from Batman. Bruce loses his parents and stays in Gotham. Kara loses her entire world and has to rebuild herself on a planet that is not hers. This is why modern versions of Kara often lean into anger, grief, and alienation more than older versions did. It is that all her power cannot give her back the life she remembers. Jason Todd. Jason Todd's backstory is tragic because his death was not only written into DC history, readers voted for it. Jason becomes the second Robin after Dick Grayson moves beyond the role. His early history changes across continuities, but the version that defines him most strongly comes after Crisis on Infinite Earths. In Batman the 408, published in 1987, Batman finds Jason as a street kid in Crime Alley trying to steal the tires off the Batmobile. Jason is not introduced as another polished heir to heroism. He is a Gotham child already shaped by poverty, neglect, and survival. Bruce sees something in him. He takes him in, trains him, and gives him the Robin mantle. That should have been Jason's second chance. Instead, it becomes the path to one of Batman's greatest failures. The defining story is A Death in the Family, published in Batman number 426 through number 429 in 1988. The creative team included writer Jim Starlin, artist Jim Aparo, and editor Dennis O'Neil. What made the story infamous was DC's decision to let readers call a phone number and choose whether Jason Todd lived or died. The final tally was brutal: 10,614 total votes. 5,343 voted for Jason to die, 271 voted for him to live. A difference of only 72 votes decided the fate of Robin. Inside the story, Jason is searching for his biological mother, Sheila Haywood. That already makes the arc painful because he is not just chasing adventure, he is trying to find family. But the Joker manipulates the situation, and Sheila betrays Jason to protect herself. The Joker beats Jason with a crowbar and leaves him trapped in a warehouse with a bomb. Batman arrives too late, and Jason dies in the explosion. That is why his tragedy hits differently from Bruce Wayne's. Bruce loses his parents and becomes Batman. Jason finds a new father figure in Batman and still dies inside Batman's mission. He is a child taken from the streets, trained for war, and killed by Batman's greatest enemy before he ever reaches adulthood. And the aftermath does not heal anything. Jason's death haunts Batman for years. The Robin costume displayed in the Batcave becomes a permanent reminder that Bruce failed to save him. But when Jason returns, the tragedy becomes even more complicated. Official DC history ties his return to both the Lazarus Pit and the warping of time and reality, depending on the version being used. Either way, Jason comes back damaged, angry, and unable to accept what happened after his death. The real wound is not only that the Joker killed him, it is that Batman did not kill the Joker afterward. That becomes the emotional center of Red Hood. Jason returns to Gotham and sees the same criminal still alive, still laughing, still protected by Batman's code. To Jason, that does not look like mercy. It looks like abandonment. He died wearing the Robin symbol, and the man who gave him that symbol still refuses to cross the one line Jason believes should have been crossed for him. Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain's backstory is one of DC's most disturbing because it takes away something most origin stories assume every child gets: language. Cassandra first appears in Batman number 567 in 1999, during the No Man's Land era, one of the darkest Gotham settings DC has ever used. The city has been devastated by an earthquake, abandoned by the government, and carved into territories by criminals, cops, and survivors. That is the environment Cassandra enters. A broken city meeting a broken child. But Cassandra's tragedy starts long before Gotham. She is the daughter of David Cain and Lady Shiva. Lady Shiva is one of the greatest martial artists alive, and David Cain is a world-class assassin obsessed with creating the perfect weapon. Cassandra is not raised as a daughter in any normal sense. Cain raises her as an experiment. From infancy, Cassandra is trained to read body language instead of spoken language. She is not taught to speak, read, or write in a normal way. Movement becomes her vocabulary, and combat becomes her grammar. That is why Cassandra is such a terrifying fighter. She can predict what someone is going to do by reading tiny physical signals before they act. In combat, that makes her almost impossible to deal with. But the cost is horrifying. Her father did not give her this ability as a gift. He denied her ordinary human development to turn her into a living weapon. That is the part that makes her origin so tragic. Cassandra does not choose the path of violence. She is built for it before she even understands what violence means. The defining moment comes when Cain uses her to kill a man while she is still a child. In many versions, Cassandra is around 8 years old. Because she can read bodies so deeply, she understands the man's death from the inside. She sees his pain, fear, and final realization through his movements. For the first time, she understands what killing actually is, and she is horrified. That moment separates Cassandra from what David Cain wanted her to become. He trained her to kill without language, but he accidentally made her able to understand suffering more intimately than almost anyone else. So she runs, because the first life she takes teaches her that she never wants to take another. That is why Cassandra's heroism is so powerful. When she later becomes Batgirl, especially under the guidance of Barbara Gordon and Batman, the symbol means something very specific. For Bruce, the bat is born from grief. For Cassandra, the bat becomes a refusal. She refuses to remain the weapon her father designed. She is also historically important because she became the first Batgirl to lead her own ongoing Batgirl comic series in 2000. That matters because Cassandra is not just a side note in the Bat family. She represents one of the strongest examples of redemption without pretending the trauma disappears. Cassandra ranks this high because her tragedy begins before memory, before speech, before choice. Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing ranks this high because his backstory is not just tragic in the normal superhero sense, it is existential horror. The character first appears in House of Secrets number 92 in 1971, created by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. That original version was more of a gothic horror story, but the idea was strong enough that DC brought the concept back. The Alec Holland version becomes central in Swamp Thing No. 1 in 1972, and at first, the setup feels like a classic monster origin. Alec Holland is a scientist working in the swamp with his wife, Linda Holland. His work centers on a biorestorative formula, a chemical breakthrough that could help plant life grow in hostile environments. Alec is not introduced as someone chasing power. He is trying to create life, and he is trying to repair damaged land. Then, the violence comes. Alec's lab is attacked. A bomb is planted. The explosion covers him in his own formula, and he runs into the swamp while burning. After that, a massive plant creature rises from the marsh, carrying Alec Holland's memories and pain. For years, the basic tragedy seems clear. Alec Holland did not die normally. He became Swamp Thing, a human mind trapped inside a body made of moss, vines, roots, and swamp matter. That would already be a strong, tragic origin. But Alan Moore's run in the 1980s turns it into something much darker. In the Saga of the Swamp Thing 21, titled The Anatomy Lesson, Moore rewrites the emotional foundation of the character without simply throwing the old story away. The issue reveals that Swamp Thing is not Alec Holland transformed into a plant monster. Alec Holland died in the swamp. The creature that came afterward is plant life that absorbed Alec's biorestorative formula, along with his memories, personality, and grief. That means Swamp Thing is not a man who lost his human body. He is a plant that believed it was a man. That reveal is devastating because it attacks the one thing the character still had left: identity. Before the anatomy lesson, Swamp Thing's pain is physical and emotional. He believes he is Alec Holland, cursed, to live in a monstrous form. After the reveal, the pain becomes philosophical. He has to confront the possibility that his memories are real, but not truly his. His love is real, but inherited, and his grief is real, but copied from a dead man. The discovery comes through Jason Woodrue, also known as the Floronic Man. Swamp Thing is examined like a specimen, not treated like a person. Woodrue studies his body and realizes that there are no human organs hiding inside the plant mass. Swamp Thing is entirely vegetable matter. The body did not transform. It grew, and that changes everything. His relationship with Abby Arcane becomes more tragic because the love he feels for her is tied to Alec Holland's memories. But the feeling that love is not Alec in the simple biological sense. His anger at the people who killed Holland becomes more complicated because he is avenging a death he used to think he survived. That is why Swamp Thing deserves to be this high on the list. Most tragic characters in DC lose something, but Swamp Thing loses certainty itself. He cannot even fully trust the story he has been telling himself about who he is. Then, DC adds another layer through the green. Swamp Thing eventually becomes connected to the green, the elemental force that links all plant life. This gives him enormous power. He can control vegetation, rebuild his body, travel through plant matter, and act as an avatar of nature itself. But becoming more powerful also pulls him farther away from the human identity he was clinging to. The more he understands what he is, the less human his existence becomes. The truth frees him from one lie, but it does not give him peace. It gives him a larger purpose while making the old wound even deeper. Martian Manhunter. We are now down to the last character with the most tragic backstory. Martian Manhunter takes the #1 spot for this ranking because his tragedy is not limited to one death, one accident, or one betrayal. It is about surviving the death of an entire civilization. J'onn J'onzz first appears in Detective Comics The Mars 225 in November 1955, created by writer Joseph Samakson and artist Joe Certa. That means he predates the Silver Age Flash, Barry Allen, who debuts in Showcase #4 in 1956. So when people talk about the foundations of the Justice League, J'onn is not some side character added later. He is one of DC's oldest major alien heroes, and one of the original pillars of the League. His first story is called The Strange Experiment of Dr. Erdel. In that Silver Age origin, a scientist on Earth uses an experimental teleportation device and accidentally pulls J'onn from Mars. The machine brings him across space, but Erdel dies soon after, leaving J'onn trapped on Earth with no way home. J'onn then takes the human identity of J'onn J'onzz and becomes a detective, using his Martian abilities while hiding in plain sight. That version already has tragedy. He is stranded, isolated, and forced to disguise himself in a world that does not know what he really is. But later, DC continuity makes his origin far darker. In post-crisis lore, especially through John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake's Martian Manhunter run from the late 1990s, J'onn's past is expanded into one of the most devastating origin stories DC has ever given a hero. Mars is not just far away. Mars is gone. J'onn is a green Martian, a member of a deeply telepathic civilization where connection is not just communication, but part of daily existence. Martians are not isolated minds the way humans are. Their culture is built around psychic contact, shared thought, memory, and emotional connection. That is what makes the destruction of Mars so horrific. In one major version, J'onn has a wife named Miria and a daughter named Kahim. He is not simply a warrior or alien refugee. He is a husband and father before he becomes Earth's Martian Manhunter. He has a family, a profession, a society, and a home. He is also a manhunter on Mars, essentially a law officer, which makes his later detective identity on Earth more than just a disguise. It is a continuation of who he used to be. Then, Ma'alefa'ak enters the tragedy. Ma'alefa'ak is John's twin brother, introduced in Martian Manhunter Volume 2, Nagur Zero, in 1998. In key versions, he becomes the architect of Huron-Mir's curse, a psychic plague that targets Martians through their telepathic abilities. The thing that connects Martian society becomes the thing that destroys it. Their greatest bond becomes the delivery system for extinction. The plague causes Martians to burn when they use their psychic gifts. For a species already vulnerable to fire, this is not just disease. It is a weapon designed around their deepest biological and cultural weakness. John watches the collapse of his people, and in some versions, he sees Miria and Kahim die from the plague. That means his trauma is not abstract. He does not only hear that Mars has fallen, he personally loses his wife and child. And then he survives. John is powerful enough to live through what destroyed almost everyone else, but not powerful enough to stop it. He has super strength, shape-shifting, telepathy, intangibility, flight, Martian vision, and one of the strongest minds in the DC universe. Yet none of that saves Mars. None of it saves his family. And none of it gives him a way to return to the life he had before. When he comes to Earth, he does not just lose a location. He loses language, ritual, culture, history, family, species, and psychic community. He becomes John Jones because Earth needs a shape it can understand. But every disguise he wears is also proof that he has to hide the last remains of Mars inside someone else's face. John is often one of the founding members, standing beside Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Aquaman. But unlike many of them, he is not just protecting his home. He is protecting an adopted planet after failing to save, or being unable to save, his original one. That gives his heroism a painful weight. He could have become cold. He could have rejected Earth. He could have treated humanity as a lesser species that could never understand what he lost. Instead, John becomes one of the League's moral centers. He is calm, empathetic, patient, and deeply protective. His telepathy lets him understand pain in others, and maybe that is why he keeps choosing compassion even after carrying one of the heaviest losses in DC history. Martian Manhunter is #1 because his tragedy works on every scale at once: personal loss, family loss, cultural loss, planetary loss, species-level extinction, survivor's guilt, permanent exile, and the loneliness of being a telepath surrounded by minds that can never truly replace the ones he lost. What makes DC's most tragic backstories so powerful is that they do not all hurt in the same way. Across DC history, tragedy has never been used only as a quick excuse for a costume or a codename. From the Golden Age roots of Batman in 1939 to the new Teen Titans era in the 1980s, to darker reinventions in modern comics, DC has repeatedly used trauma as a way to ask what a hero actually is after something has been taken from them. They are not just sad beginnings, they are moral tests. A character loses a family, a world, a body, a childhood, or an identity, and the question becomes what they choose to do with what remains. Do they become cruel? Do they become obsessed? Do they disappear into grief? Or do they turn that pain into something that protects others? That is the real reason these characters endure. Not because they suffered, but because of what they do after suffering. In DC, tragedy is not always the end of a character's story. Sometimes it is the pressure that reveals who they really are. And the most tragic characters are often the ones who still choose to stand between the world and the kind of pain that created them. If you enjoyed this ranking, don't forget to like the video, Subscribe for more comic book lore and comment below. Which DC character do you think has the most tragic backstory?